Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 32nd Annual Hancock Sports Hall of Fame Banquet and Induction. First inductee this evening is a gentleman by the name of Bill Beach. Bill is predominantly known for football at Findlay High School. He lettered 3 years as a Trojan, and he played linebacker his sophomore year, and his junior and senior year he scored 20 touchdowns, rushed for 1,800 yards, and did a fantastic job for the Trojans of Findlay High School. His junior year, he was second team all-conference, and his senior year, he was first team all-conference and also all-Ohio. And he played in the North-South game, which was the premier game, the oldest all-star game in the United States, and he was the leading rusher for the North in that particular year. He then received a football scholarship, athletic scholarship at the University of Pittsburgh, where his quarterback was a little guy by the name of Dan Marino. You may have heard of him. So it was a pretty good tandem between Bill and Dan Marino. He was the leading rusher for Pittsburgh. He lettered there 3 years, did a fantastic job, and he was in 1982. His average yards per carry was better than anybody on Pittsburgh's team. And we're just excited to have Bill as one of our inductees this year.
We're here with Bill Beach. Congratulations, Bill, on your induction into the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
Got to be
Thank
a big
you.
thrill.
It is. It's very exciting.
Talk about it a little bit.
Well, it's great to come back to Findlay, and this weekend happens to be almost like a class reunion because Dave Reeker is coming in the class. He was a year ahead of me. We played basketball together for years. The basketball team that is full of my buddies from the same year. I didn't play my senior year, but that whole group is here. And an old next-door neighbor, John Vielhaber, we're all going in at the same time, so it's a lot of fun to see all the old friends again.
When you think back to those days, obviously you created a lot of memories, and back in those days, you probably didn't think that you were doing that at that time, and now when you look back, you're probably thinking, yeah, there was a lot of great memories created.
Yeah, there really were. It's like you said, at the time, you're so focused and intense on what you're doing that you don't take the time to appreciate it necessarily, and it goes by so fast. But when now I'm able to look in the rearview mirror and say, hey, those were awfully good days. A lot of good friends, a lot of good times, and had a lot of fun. I wish I would have thought to enjoy it more at the time, but you're so busy. But now it's fun to look back and enjoy it.
What do you remember the most?
Oh, there's no question for me. I was very motivated to beat Cincinnati Moeller. Now, we didn't get it accomplished, unfortunately, but my brother was on the team in 1974, and this was when Cincinnati Moeller had their longest winning streak in the country, #1 team in the country for years. And I remember John Vielhaber got stopped on a 2-point conversion, and they lost in what was his and my brother's senior year, 21-20. So from that moment, I was focused on I'm going to do whatever it takes to beat Cincinnati Moeller. And we gave him a good game my junior year, which was my first year starting as a tailback. But we came up a little short, but we represented ourselves, I think, well. And I worked really, really hard for that, and it ended up paying off the rest of the season.
Well, obviously a great career at Findlay High, carried on to the University of Pittsburgh, where you played with a great legend in Dan Marino.
I did. It was a tremendous learning experience going from Findlay, Ohio, into the city in Pittsburgh. Didn't know a soul when I went over there. And a funny story is I went over for my recruiting trip. Back then we could have 6 recruiting trips. And I had used 5, and I thought, well, I'll just throw in Pitt as a 6th one. So my mom and I flew over a rainy night, planes going up and down. We get there, it's miserable. My mom thought immediately, well, I know he's not going to come here. And I told her the next day, I said, I've never had people be as nice to me as they're being to me right now. These people love me. Well, that was the first step of my education, because my host, who I didn't know, was Dan Marino. And I'd never heard his name before. But he grew up in Oakland, the part of Pittsburgh where the university is. He had a great freshman year. And, the only news we had here was the Courier. There wasn't the internet. So I didn't know anything about Pitt football, didn't know anything about Dan Marino. And I thought people were being nice to me until I get there in the fall. I sign up, get over there in the fall, and I'm just a number. It's like, hey, where's everybody was being nice to me? And, the education came early.
Yeah. Well, but in hindsight, I'm sure a great decision.
Oh, it was. I was very fortunate to play on that team. We had such tremendous talent. I played with, I think it was 8 college football Hall of Fame members and 4 NFL Hall of Fame players. And the entire time I was there, unfortunately, though, I always had a defensive end that I was trying to block that ended up in the NFL Hall of Fame. And on the other side, my freshman year was a guy who finished second in the Heisman Trophy race. So I got a quick indoctrination into college football. There were good memories for me, and the old teammates made some good memories afterwards.
Bill Beach, congratulations on your
Thank you very
induction into the
much.
Hancock Sports Hall of Fame.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
We're here recognizing the 1979-1980 Findlay High School basketball team, ranked 5th in the state. Al Baker, assistant coach of that team that was coached by Roger Renz. And congratulations first on the induction into the Hancock Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you. It's a tremendous honor, and certainly a deserving team. I only wish Roger Renz could be with us. Unfortunately, we lost Roger a few years after this team played with his battle some illness, and it would have been great to have him here.
I guess when you look back on that season, what stands out most?
Well, I think, luckily it was my first season, so I had an opportunity to work with a very experienced team that already was established. They had a great team the year before and won the Buckeye Conference. And so we had a very deep team, a great group of kids. They accepted me right away. And mentioning Roger Renz, he was a tremendous coach. Roger had that team rolling from the start. Most of the people in Findlay area remember Al Thomas, the point guard, and John Kidd, who had a career in the NFL, as the two of the key players. But this team was very deep and very talented.
You mentioned that was your first year. Roger Renz obviously bringing this team along. When did you know that this was going to be a special team?
Oh, pretty early on. I mean, we went through our preseason with a group of players that just played basketball, so they weren't involved in any other sports at that time. And that was a pretty good group of 4 or 5 key players. And then we had 4 or 5 more key players come off the football team that missed the first couple of weeks because they had a great football season. And we put them together. And then after we got a couple of games into the season, I knew this was going to be a pretty special team.
It's kind of unheard of, especially back in those days, maybe not so much more these days, where you had kids that specialized in just one sport. Back in those days, you had 3 sport players. And as you said, you had a few that came off the football team, but you had some that were just basketball players.
Absolutely. That preseason was pretty demanding, and those guys were really ready. And of course, football, it takes a little bit of time to get your legs and your wind into basketball. There's a little bit of difference in conditioning between basketball and football. But those kids were very, very strong, very athletic. and very determined.
Back in those days, the Buckeye Conference,
Buckeye Conference, yes.
you had to go great distances to play Lorraine and some of the teams that you had to play. It's a little bit different now, but that had to be a little difficult with a travel schedule and that sort of thing.
No question. We played usually on a Friday, maybe a Saturday, once in a while a Tuesday, but for the most part it was a Friday, Saturday, a lot of doubleheaders, and we might be traveling to Elyria on Friday night and then Fremont on Saturday night. So, between taking the team to those places and the coaches going to scout, there was a lot of traveling involved.
Tell us about the style of play back in those days. How is it different than today? What was Coach Renz's style and the I guess the attitude of the team and how you played?
Well, Roger had a very big, strong team. We weren't tremendously quick, and there wasn't a lot of the full court up and down pressing at that time that there is now. So the game was a little bit different. Findlay High School basketball was methodical. We didn't make turnovers. We came down and pounded the ball inside, kicked it back out, played great defense, and didn't make many mistakes. So it was a very methodical game.
Looking at the schedule that year, the one regular season loss to Lorraine Admiral King, lost that game by about 15 points at their place. Came back a few weeks later, knocked them off by 17 at your place.
Yeah, that was we were certainly the two premier teams in the league. Elyria was very good. Fremont was very good. Sandusky was very talented every year. Actually, the Buckeye Conference was probably one of the top 3 conferences in Ohio at that time. And, we were fortunate to split with Lorraine Admiral King and unfortunate to get knocked off by Columbus South in the regional tournament. But Lorraine won their region and ended up being runner-up in the state that year. So it's a good experience, and I'm honored to be able to talk about these kids tonight.
Do you keep in contact with?
Yeah, there's a number of them still live in town. A few have moved away that I saw for the first time last night at a little mixer in quite a few years. But I see Al Thomas, Scott McCormick, Steve Corbin. I see them around town quite a bit. So
A lot of times, good time to talk about the old days.
Yeah. A lot of great memories.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And on your behalf and the team's behalf and you representing them, congratulations on being inducted into the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame.
I certainly appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Our next inductee is Jana Dirth Conley. She was Miss Track USA as far as Ohio and Hancock County was concerned. She led her 4 years at Corey Rawson High School. She ran the 100, the 200, and anchored both relays. She led Corey Rawson to a state runner-up finish, and she also led Corey Rawson to a state championship. Jana was probably the fastest thing around, and she won 14 medals at Columbus in the state track meet, 8 gold medals. I don't think that there's been another female athlete in Hancock County that's ever achieved that sort of record, 8 gold medals. She was undefeated in the Blanchard Valley Conference and also undefeated in the entire Northwestern Ohio. She had great credentials. She was also very good in the classroom because she made all academic in the state of Ohio as far as track and field was concerned. She then got an athletic scholarship to Ohio University, where she was picked as the most valuable freshman athlete. She also did a great job at Ohio University, again running the 100, the 200, and anchoring both relays. She also became all academic for the Mid-American Conference, and we're really excited about having her as one of our inductees in this particular year.
Janet, welcome, and congratulations on your induction into the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
I guess your thoughts on that.
I'm incredibly honored to be inducted. It's a kind of a surreal moment for me, but it's a huge honor.
As you go back and look and think about what led to your induction, I guess what comes to mind?
I think one of my biggest memories, honestly, was my freshman year. Making it to the state meet was something that I had always hoped for, but wasn't sure that I would achieve. And walking into the horseshoe at Ohio State that first year was just, almost took our breath away. You know, it was this massive arena that we were going to be competing in front of all these people, and it was a really humbling experience. And I think our coaches did a really good job of kind of bringing us back down to earth and getting us focused and prepared, because we really were not used to that kind of crowd and that kind of atmosphere, but at the same time it was so exciting. And you know, I think we were kind of a young team, and so a lot of people weren't expecting us to do a lot there. You know, we hadn't been heard of, I guess I should say, because we were such a young team, and so we didn't even know what we were capable of heading into that meet.
You had team championships and individual championships, and obviously spanning a few years. The second year you went, and so on, was it different? I mean, were you more relaxed, say, the second year as opposed to the first year?
Maybe a little bit more relaxed, because we kind of I knew what I was getting into. I knew kind of the rhythm of everything, and I knew what to expect a little bit more, but I also knew what competition was there from the year prior. So, you know, I was nervous from that standpoint, because we'd been kind of keeping track of each other, all of us that had been there the year prior. We were kind of keeping track of each other's times, and so we knew, you know, what we were getting into going into that meet.
After your high school career, you went on to Ohio University and continued your track career there. Tell us your thoughts on that.
It was a completely different environment, you know, running at the collegiate level, but yet it kind of gave me a home at college. My teammates became like a family to me there, and I made some really great friends. So it was different, but I'm really thankful that I had that experience as well.
It had to be a big difference going from a little school like Corey Rawson to Ohio University.
Yeah, it was my freshman year, our very first practice, our coach had us all stand up, and he said, okay, if you're a division champion, stand up, stay standing. Everybody stood. If you're a regional champion, stay standing. Everybody stayed standing. If you're a state champion, stay standing. And about 75% of us were still standing. And he was like, okay, look around. You're no longer a big fish in a little pond. So
That had to be kind of humbling at that time.
it was, yeah, it was. But, you know, I think most of us knew that was what we were getting into. But, yeah, I thought it was a neat way to kind of start off.
Yeah. Now, as things progressed, you graduated with a degree in journalism?
Yes, I did, with an emphasis in public relations.
Okay, and tell us about that afterwards, and then now you're just a stay-at-home mom?
I am a stay-at-home mom, yes. I worked for a few years in public relations at St. Ursula Academy in Toledo, and then at Hart Associates was an ad agency there. And then when we had our first son, Landon, in 2006, I decided to be a stay-at-home mom, and now we have 3 kids. Landon is 9, McKenna is 7, and Logan is 5.
So they probably really don't know what's going on here tonight with you.
No. Grandma and Grandpa have showed them videos, so they've seen some videos of me running, and but they're excited. I think especially our oldest, Landon, he gets it, you know, he understands a little bit what's going on, but yeah.
No mom was a big track star.
No.
Well, congratulations, Jana, on
Thank
your
you.
induction into the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame, and a big honor, and again, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
We're here with Chris Luthold, and he is representing Grant Johnson, one of the inductees into the class of 2016 Hancock Sports Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Grant Johnson was a baseball player from Findlay. He graduated from Findlay High School in the 1800s and had a very long career in the Negro Leagues as a baseball player, playing in America and in Cuba.
When you look at finding inductees, obviously you went a long way back on this one.
Well, he slipped through the cracks all these years. I think maybe we just didn't know about him, and we discovered him a couple years ago and thought that he was perfect to be an inductee, but we wanted to maybe try to locate some family before we inducted him too soon, and so we've really known about him for about 2 years. So,
back in the day when he came up playing professional baseball, obviously started out playing semi-pro ball in Findlay and then played through the Negro Leagues. That was a tough time for ball players of the black race back in those days.
yeah, and even playing Major League Baseball, it just wasn't as solid as it is now, but particularly in the Negro Leagues, and they had a good fan base, but players were not held to their contracts, and they break the contracts, and you never knew if you were going to be out of a job the next day. And but he was a top of the line class guy, and everything that we've read on him, just nothing but class. And he played until he was in his 50s in some lesser leagues, but in the top leagues, he was maybe the best shortstop of his era, which would be the first and second decades of the 20th century.
In doing your research on Mr. Johnson, talk a little bit about his accomplishments.
He was a captain of 7 teams that won Negro League championships. At age 38, in the Cuban League, he had .410 batting average, led the league in RBIs and sacrifice bunts, which is odd for a guy named Home Run Johnson that he would lead the league in sacrifice bunts. That's at age 38. There were 6 Americans on that Cuban team, and 3 of them are in Cooperstown. And there were 2 Cubans, the rest of the players were Cubans, and 2 of those Cubans later played Major League Baseball, but the opportunity never came for him.
You just alluded to the fact that his nickname was Home Run Johnson. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, he hit 60 home runs for the Findlay Sluggers, and that was the semi-pro team in 1894. And he was the only black ball player on the team. The rest of them were white. And by the way, I'd like to add that he graduated from high school at a time when only 5% of Americans graduated from high school. So just the fact that anyone graduated from high school is accomplishment, let alone minority, probably the only black in his class, I'm sure, the only black student in his class. So, but he hit 60 home runs for the Findlay Sluggers, and that got him some notoriety, and little by little he moved up to a little bit better leagues and a little bit better teams. And he played for the Philadelphia Grays and Chicago and a couple of other of the teams back then.
I'm sure it was very hard coming from a town back in those days like Findlay, Ohio, to get noticed, to work your way up.
And I don't know how that happened. I don't know who noticed him, or if they had scouts out. Maybe they did. I don't know. If they did, Findlay would not be a hotbed for black baseball players. So somehow his name got out there, and somebody found him. So.
And then he eventually went into coaching.
He did. In fact, he was a player manager Even on the one Cuban team I mentioned, when he hit .410 and was second in the league, he was a player manager for that team and oldest guy in the league. And one of his nickname was Dad, actually. So he probably got that in his later years when he was player manager.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Johnson is looking down now on this ceremony tonight and is feeling very proud that Hancock County and Findlay is honoring him with his induction into the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he's probably wondering what took so long, but we're just very happy. And by the way, there is a movement to have him inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. He is on the list. So, and we're not really involved in that, but there is a group that wants to get him inducted into Cooperstown.
All right, Chris Ludold representing Grant Johnson, who is being inducted into the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Our next inductee is Jim Martin. Jim Martin was kind of Mr. Van Loo back in the late 50s. He played football, basketball, and baseball at Van Loo. His junior year, he quarterbacked the team to an undefeated season of 8-0 and won the Hancock County Championship. And his junior year, he was all-conference. His senior year, he was all-conference both ways. He was a Toledo Blade all-star team player. He was a great basketball player as well. He, again, was all-conference both ways, and he led the Wildcats to an 18-4 season and a 14-2 season and a championship season. So he won championships in both basketball and football. He then went on to Heidelberg University in Tiffin, where he lettered 4 years and played football for the Student Princes. He then decided that education was his forte, and he spent 30 years in education, where he was a teacher at Rittman High School in Springfield Township. He also coached football, basketball, track, and volleyball. And he is a welcome addition to our Hancock Sports Hall of Fame.
We were Jim Martin. Congratulations on your induction into the Hancock Sports
Thank
Hall
you
of Fame.
very much.
Has to be a thrill. Your thoughts on
It
it?
was totally unexpected. I didn't know they were even doing that or anything. My brother told me I was in the Van Loo Hall of Fame, and that was quite an honor, but this is above and beyond.
A standout in your days at Van Loo back in the 50s, a small school, Ohio. What are your thoughts on going back to those days when you think about it?
Oh, I look at today's players and all the sports camps they can go to, and how each sport's like a year around. Back then, you could play every sport. I mean, in my junior year, we had some really good athletes. We were good in basketball, and we were always good in basketball back then. Football was not so, but we're the only undefeated team they ever had. And it's because we had a really good team, and we had Coach Jerry Martin, there's no relative, but he was from Findlay College, and he was a very demanding person. And he left, and Al Stacy came in. He was really a good coach also. And Dick Miller was our basketball coach, and he was an excellent coach. We were 17-4 my senior year, and 18-4 my junior year, I think. We lost it over at Heidelberg against Ottawa St. Peter and Paul. And that was when we played Rossford the night before. And they had being little farm kids like us, and they were on TV, they had a big center, 6'6". We're down 32-12 in the third quarter. And we end up 1 point behind at the end of the quarter and win by 5. So that was probably my biggest show in basketball.
I was going to just ask you, what, as you look back at your career, that's one of them.
Yes, and beating Arcadia in football for the championship, where we were both undefeated. That was the second best one. And then playing with the guys we had, and some of them are here tonight, which I was not expecting to see. So I'm pretty much, my daughters came from North Canton, 2.5, 3 hour drive to see this, so I'm pretty lucky.
It's got to be a big thrill for your family to see this, and for you to have a chance to reflect back
Yeah.
on those days.
Yeah, we found, I didn't know they had any films or tapes of us, but they found something and put it together. I looked so slow back then, and so forth. But they didn't have our junior season on there. I would love to have seen the Arcadia game over here, because that was a hard-hitting game. That was my biggest thrill.
Things are a little bit different these days as opposed to when you were in school.
Oh, yeah. We played 8 games. We only had 7, and then we played the Findlay JVs. And apparently we beat them, it was 40-0 or something. I don't know that we'd have beaten the varsity or given it a game, but we had a nice ball club. We had some size and speed and some good athletes.
Well, it's got to be a thrill to come back home. You mentioned first time back in this area in a long time.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the new gym at Van Loo. If you saw some of the tapes from Liberty Benton had a gym that the 10-second line was the foul line. For the one, it was so small. You play a zone defense, and you had to shoot from out, but you never got the chance to get it in.
Back in the old days when they played in the auditorium,
Yeah.
Up on the stage.
Bad place to watch a game from, I always thought. All you're looking at is seeing knees and so forth. But that's the way it goes.
Well, Jim, congratulations on your induction into the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame. Welcome back to Hancock County.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Jim Martin.
Our next inductee is Cindy Moorhead, and Cindy is with the University of Findlay, where she has the University of Findlay Western Horse Association, and she kind of took it to the top of the world as far as equestrians are concerned. She has 5 national championships and 3 reserve national championships, 4 national and 2 reserve titles in High Point Rider quarter horses. 24 individual national champions. She is fantastic. Her daughter Katie, for example, is a national champion. She's been an instructor at Findlay, the University of Findlay, for 38 years, and she's just a fantastic professional. She's a writer, she's a clinician, she's a judge, she's a trainer, she's a coach, and I'm going to tell you, we're lucky to have her in Hancock County.
We're here with Cindy Moorhead with the University of Findlay's equestrian program, being inducted into the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations. That has to be a good honor for you.
Oh, thanks. It is quite an honor, and I really feel proud to actually have an equestrian brought into the Hall of Fame.
Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that, and you've been involved for many, many years in equestrian, and it's got to be a big thrill.
Oh, you know, I'm very fortunate that I've been able to do something for my career that I love to do. You know, like lots of little kids, I've loved horses since I was a child. So to be able to go on and continue a career doing something like that is pretty special.
How do you get into something like that and develop it into being an equestrian coach at a university?
You know, it's funny, and I think about that a lot. It's like, what does draw people to horses or basketball or, you know, whatever. But when I was little, I used to see horses riding by my house, you know, and I'd be out in the front yard playing, and I'd just be mesmerized by them. And eventually, when I got old enough, I actually followed them up to their house where they were, you know, and they let me start riding their ponies. They taught me about riding. They would take me to horse shows and let me compete there. Because all I had was my mother. My dad died when I was young, and she was afraid of horses, so there was no way I was going to have horses in my life through my mother. So I was very fortunate to know these people. And from there, I went on to an equestrian career school in West Virginia, took a 9-month course, and then worked there for 6 years, teaching people about horses there. And then I started coming to Findlay while I was there, to Dale Wilkinson's, getting help on riding horses. I had a cutting horse, so he would help me out with that. And then he helped start the equestrian program at the university, so he asked me to teach. And I came on there the very first year it started.
One of your probably most proudest things, I would think, is coaching your own daughter
Yes.
as a champion.
Yes, I'm very proud of her. She, as a student at the university, she was on my team. She actually helped us to win a national championship one year. We were in the very last class, and we were tied with Ohio State going in there, and she did beat their rider, so that was pretty exciting, especially Ohio State. That's pretty good. And she's been athlete of the year, female athlete of the year for the university. She's now doing lessons. She's coaching a IEA team, which is high school, middle school riders, and she actually just won a national championship again this year with that team last week, and has tied my 4 national championships already, and she's only 26. And she's also coaching Bowling Green University's college team, and she's just got her first college rider qualified for our nationals next week, so she's pretty excited about that.
She was just one of many champions that you coached.
Yes, I've been fortunate.
Very proud.
Yes, and it's nice being an equestrian program. We do draw in a lot of talented kids, but actually half of my team are non-equestrian riders. I have some pre-vets, business majors, all different types. So it helps draw in a lot of other kids, not just equestrians.
Now, and now you're retired,
Yes.
but you're still involved in the program.
I know, I feel like I'm busier now that I'm retired. And I help her out some with her teams. I was with her at her nationals last week, and she'll be at ours this week. And, so, yeah, it keeps me busy. I've been doing some clinics and that sort of thing.
Is it a year-round sport?
Yes, it is.
I mean, like most sports, you have your season, but so that's got to keep things very busy.
Yeah, for the university, of course, it's during the school year. But yeah, the horse competitions go all year long, and it helps. For being in Ohio, you got to have an indoor arena, to keep your horses riding well and that. But it's all over the country. I'm a director for Ohio Quarter Horse, and we put on a horse show called the Quarter Horse Congress in Columbus, Ohio, in October. It's the whole month of October. It's a single breed quarter horse show, biggest horse show in the world, single breed, and. So they come from all over the country and Europe, and it's pretty neat.
Yeah. Cindy Moorhead, congratulations on your induction into the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame, and we congratulate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Mr. Dave Reeker. Dave was a Findlay High School basketball first-team All-Ohio player, and he was the team's leading rebounder, the team's leading scorer. He took his team to an 18-2 championship, and the Trojans did a great job whenever they had Dave Reeker around. He played for the University of Toledo, and at the University of Toledo, he won 2 MAC championships, played in the NCAA tournament, and also ended up with his team in the final 16 of the National Invitational Tournament, which is played in New York City. He coached high school basketball, and to this day he's a basketball official. But again, we never seem to run out of talent, and we're very, very happy to have Dave as our newest member.
Here with David Reeker. Congratulations on your induction into the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame. Got to be a big thrill.
Thank you very much. Yes, I mean, it's been a long time. I got a great brother who did a lot of lobbying for me, and so it's a great honor. Very, very humbled.
Stand out for the Findlay Trojans back in the late 70s. Had some great teams. What are your fondest memories?
I just say the camaraderie. I mean, all the teammates. When you find out tonight and you see everybody here, just the people you meet. A lot of lifelong lessons. So, I mean, just all the friends, that's all I can say. I mean, you just meet a lot of people through. I think that's what sports was supposed to be about. Instead of all the winning and losing, you just, your lifelong lessons and the people you meet.
Well, and we talked with Mr. Baker, who was an assistant coach on that 79-80 team, coached by Roger Renz, that is also being inducted tonight. Obviously, you coming up through the program, graduating a year before that, were part of that program, essentially.
Well, Roger, the first year he came was my senior year. He did a lot. He was great disciplinarian. He expected a lot of you, but I think he expected out of it because of life. It's all about lifelong lessons. We made it to the regional semis that year and then got beat by Irish Leicester's team at Washington Courthouse. So he taught us a lot, and he was great.
When you look back on your career, are there any defining moments or games that maybe stand out the most?
For me, it was probably John Stozic. If you remember John before Roger Renz, he probably saved my life.
Former mayor of
Yeah. I work with special ed kids now, and I do it because I was I wouldn't say a troublemaker when I was young, but it followed me a little bit. And but I had great parents, and when you have great parents and they hold you accountable for what you do, everything turned out great. And John probably saved my life.
You're up there in the top 10 in rebounding and scoring, and there's some pretty good company up there with the likes of Ben Roethlisberger and so forth. Talk about that just a little bit.
Well, when I found out I'm fourth, and I'm 55 years old, I'm like, wow, thought that was pretty good. I only played 2.5 years of high school. If you remember back in the day, we didn't have freshmen couldn't play high school basketball, so we had our junior highs, our 7th and 8th and 9th grade. And then when I tried to figure out who I was, it took me about 2.5 years, so I got about 2.5 years of high school basketball. So, and then Fritz Drake just told me, if it's correct, that I'm one of 4 that are first team All-Ohio. For all the years at Findlay High School, I'm pretty blessed to play some great players. So
that's fantastic. If you have to look back, what was the biggest win over which, if there was one? Or I mean,
for us, anytime you beat Lorraine Admiral King, they were always a nemesis. So if you beat Lorraine, but for us it was to get to the regionals my junior year. That was probably my biggest disappointment was losing in our senior year in our second game. And it was really funny because when we got beat by Napoleon, and Tim Reiser and Barry Sonnenberg were the stars back then. When I graduate, I go to Toledo and play basketball, and who comes to Toledo and play basketball but Barry Sonnenberg and Tim Reiser? So we became great friends, and God rest Barry's soul, and so that's probably one of the best right there, all that.
You led into my next question. Obviously went on to the University of Toledo, had some great years there and created great memories.
Oh yeah, we freshman year we got to go to the NCAA, which was a great experience. Sophomore year we went to the NIT and finished top 16. But again, it's just all the experiences, all the people you meet. I'm so lucky to have surrounded myself with some great people, and I can call all these people. They're all still my friends, and that's probably the most gratifying thing.
David Riker, congratulations on your induction into the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you for everything you do.
The next inductee is John Vielhaber. John lettered in 3 sports at Findlay High School. He lettered in football, basketball, and baseball. He's probably more known for football than anything else. However, he was a great athlete in both basketball and baseball. He lettered 3 years for the Trojans as quarterback. An injury set him back a little bit, but he still made all conference after breaking his collarbone and being out for a while. He was so good that the coaches in the state of Ohio picked John as their quarterback for the football game with Pennsylvania called the Big 33 game that was played in 1975. A teammate of his was also Matt Huffman from Corey Rawson High School from Hancock County. In that particular game, which was played at Hershey, Pennsylvania, John ran for a 2-point conversion, and right toward the end of the ball game, he threw for a 2-point conversion to win the football game for the state of Ohio, 16-14. John then earned a scholarship to play at Michigan State University And for the Spartans, he was a member of a team that won the Big Ten championship. He still has very, very close ties to Michigan State and Sparty. John is probably overdue to be in our class, and we're happy to have him in the class of 2016.
Real John Vielhaber, congratulations on your induction into the Hancock
Thank you,
Sports
John.
Hall of Fame.
Thanks very much.
Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's just a tremendous honor, not only to me, but to my family and my teammates and my coaches.
8 varsity letters in all sports, football, basketball, and baseball. Quite the athlete.
Well, yeah, I suppose so. Again, I had some great coaches, and I had some older brothers that helped school me along the way that helped develop my skills. So it was a great ride.
You know, in this day and age, you don't really find many kids that play all 3 sports anymore. That happened back in the day. Sometimes kids think they need to specialize in a sport, but back in our day, that's what you did. Football season came around, basketball, then baseball.
And that was pretty much it. We were playing year round, and in that sense, I guess I'm glad I played maybe in that era. I know a lot of the younger kids today are sometimes maybe pressured to make choices at an earlier age, and I did have the freedom to go out for all 3 at that time, and it was maybe a little simpler time, but I think we had maybe a little more fun at the same time.
As you look back on it now, I mean, and just by looking at your biography, football had to probably be your favorite or what you excelled at most, especially playing in the Big 33 All-Star game.
Yeah, it was. I think maybe deep down, I probably enjoyed playing baseball the most at a young age, but football provided me with so many more opportunities, not only to travel and participate in that All-Star game, but then, of course, to go on to college with a scholarship, and that was so influential in my life.
What are some of your fondest memories, or maybe your biggest game, or perhaps the biggest moment or two of your career?
Well, I'd say certainly the Big 33 game stands out as a major event, but the most impactful game was probably against Fremont Ross in my junior year when we beat an undefeated team, and that was indeed one of the most fun games, and I think it put the program on the map as well.
And just for the folks watching the Big 33 game, if they may not know, Ohio All-Stars versus Pennsylvania All-Stars, and you had a key role in leading Ohio to a victory that year, and Ohio's first victory in that All-Star game.
Yeah, it was. We were very proud of that fact that we won Ohio's first victory in the series, and I was able to get the team into the end zone on a couple touchdown drives, but I ran in for a conversion, and I had a teammate of mine make a spectacular catch on a ball that might have been otherwise overthrown. And,
he made you look good.
He made me look real good.
Then you went on to play football at Michigan State.
I did, yes. And we had, again, a great time up there. I had so many friendships made, and we had a great year in '78 where we were actual champions of the Big Ten, and obviously that was a big highlight.
I got to tell you, you sent me home crying that year. I was a 15-year-old kid growing up just outside of Ann Arbor, and my dad was a big Spartan. I was at that game, and you and your teammates, Kurt Gibson and Eddie Smith and those guys, knocked off Bo Schembechler's Rick Leach and Rob Lytle, who was from Fremont Ross.
That was, indeed, that was a huge upset. I don't know that many people would have seen that coming or predicted that to happen at all, but that was a memorable day in Spartan history and in your life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But regardless, a great career when you reflect back on it.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very humbled by the induction tonight, and it's indeed a great honor.
John, congratulations.
Thanks, John.
Here with Jim Borgia. He's the Bud Gianetto inductee this year for officiating, and congratulations in your induction into the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I guess thoughts on that?
Well, it's a real honor because in the officiating world, the only people that know if you're doing a good job are your peers. Everybody knows if you're doing a bad job. But, and that's who you're selected by, are your peers. It's kind of a fraternity where you just enjoy being out on the field, enjoying the game, doing your job, trying to get as good as you can at it. And when you're recognized by peers in that, it's a real honor.
I was going to say there's kind of a fine line there where you've got the people in the stands that are yelling at you if you make a bad call, and then those who respect what you're doing.
Yeah, it's funny. You'll see sometimes watching the sport networks, you'll see the worst call ever made, or this bad call, or this terrible call. But I've never seen one that said, "Let's look at this great call." You know, the only people that know if you've done a good job are the people that you're working with.
When you look back at your career on what you've done, what stands out the most?
Well, first of all, it had been a long time since I'd been out on the field when I started. I've been doing this 10 years and raising a family, and I thought I'd wait till that was all complete. I remember the first game I ever did getting out on that field again because I just love the game, even as an official as opposed to a player. I just remember I thought I'm going to love doing this and I'm going to do it as long as I can. And, you know, the nice thing is, again, you develop friendships, you know, normally with football, especially on Friday night and on Saturday, you work with typically the same crew, and you may be with those people for years, and you're all together on Friday night, you go through the season. Sometimes you stay in touch a little bit, but most time, you know, some of them are from different cities and that, so you pick up the next season and it's almost like you never stopped.
2 state semifinal games, and you did a state championship. That had to be a thrill.
It was actually one of the biggest thrills of my life, especially being at the shoe. I mean, it was, you know, first when I was selected, because that really in high school football, that's the goal. I mean, that's once you get there, I mean, you know, you obviously you'd like to repeat over a few years, but that's kind of like the epitome of what you're doing. And you know, I told my wife when I was selected, and again, she's been with me through all this. Family plays a big role because they become what's called a referee widow every weekend during the season. But I told her, I said, you know, few things in my life but that have been more exciting than this, but this is easily within the top 5 when doing a state final game. And it was, and when I got there and did the game, it didn't let me down. It was just a blast.
What's the difference between doing a high school game and you also do Division III college games?
Right. Well, I will say this, to me, and again, this is personal, every official I'm sure thinks different, there's nothing like a Friday night out on the field. There's nothing like that excitement. I chose to pursue college just for the experience. I do enjoy it. It's more of a, I don't want to say this, I don't want to say business, but it's more serious. I mean, obviously when you're officiating, it's always serious, but college, and the higher you step up on levels, the more critique you take. When I do a game, I'm being observed on film. I get clips later if I did good or bad, you know, that type of thing. And, you know, the biggest thing, which some people realize, some don't, is there are just many, many rule differences. So you have to figure that out. I will say that college is probably easier than high school because you have 7 officials instead of 5. So your focus is much smaller when you're out in the field. But other than that, I mean, football's football. You will find at college, the little cliche we use is you hold back on your whistle because this kid may make an amazing play that you don't think is going to happen. You think they're going to end up out of bounds or something, and he makes a fantastic catch and lands with a foot in bounds. So you have to pay attention to that stuff. Obviously, it's a lot faster, so a little bit better.
Jim Borgia, the inductee with the Bud Gianetto Officiating Award. Congratulations on your induction.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
On behalf of the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame Committee, it's just an honor to thank you people for taking time out of a busy day to watch this video. and we hope that you enjoyed all the participants that have been inducted in our class this year. You know, our organization works hard. It's a nonprofit organization. We hope that you can back it as much as possible, and we look forward to seeing you in our new headquarters at Legends Steakhouse and Bar. Thank you again for being a part of our program, and thank you for enjoying athletics in Hancock County. The pleasure is ours. Thank you.